Good afternoon, good evening, I guess, hockey fans. I'm
Good
tired, man.
afternoon.
It's
I
been a
wish.
long day.
I wouldn't mind a couple hours back in the day.
That'd be nice. It gets dark so early now too. My whole schedule is all kind of screwed up.
Welcome to
Well,
winter.
we'll do take two on this intro here. Good evening, hockey fans. Welcome to episode 4 of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me, Joel Fernino. Joel, happy Tuesday, good buddy.
Happy Tuesday, my friend, and it's a good Tuesday. It's a good Tuesday. I'm
Definitely.
enjoying the. Are you enjoying the fall weather while we have it very
I
shortly and briefly?
I am. It was brutally hot in our apartment this summer. The insulation was terrible, so
Remember you
like
told me
even
about.
when the air conditioning was on, it didn't feel comfortable most of the time.
Right.
So while it was still 80, our landlord had shut the air conditioning off. So now that it has cooled off and can sleep with the windows open at night, I mean, it is fantastic. That's the good life.
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying it. It is my first fall in my new condo, and it gets cold when I open that door.
I bet that's got to feel good though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, we are on to episode 4 of Pod Snipe Celly. I am just blown away by the fact that we've made this thing work for 4 episodes now. Um, as always, we want to invite anybody who is watching to participate in the show. If you've got a comment, a prediction, spicy take that you want to share throughout the show, please do so. We are having some technical difficulties with Twitter tonight. Not sure what's going on there. We're trying to get it to go back live as we can. It looks like there's still some issues there. So apologies for the technical difficulties on the Twitter end. But it looks like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, we're up on all of those channels. And as always, if you're listening on demand on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, thank you for listening there as well. But we definitely do, as a live podcast, want to hear from you throughout the show. If you've got anything you want to add, please feel free to chime in. We'll put it up on the screen so that we both can take a look at it here, and we'll go from there. Starting off, we got some big hockey news. Adam Fox signing a 7-year, $9.5 million extension. The defending Norris Trophy winning defenseman, that man gets paid. That $9.5 million average annual value on that contract over that period. We're going to talk some salary numbers here a little bit, and that can get a little confusing with salary scaling in different years. So we'll use AAV. If you hear us talking about that, that's just what the average is. If we're talking strictly salary dollars, we'll make sure to acknowledge that as well. But Joel, is this a good deal for the Rangers?
Of course it is. Of all the people that have signed, of all the defensemen recently that have signed these, let's just call it north of $8 million contracts. I mean, I think Adam Fox has probably earned it the most. Recent Norris Trophy winner. He's already off to an amazing start this season, and he's just damn good at hockey.
He is, and you watch the way that he impacts everything that the Rangers do in all aspects. Penalty kill, power play
Quarterback.
lot of good 5-on-5 two-way play. I mean, his numbers are just incredible through all of those zones. But is there some risk involved with that 7-year deal? A lot of these guys wanting to get paid. We've seen some guys try and sign for a shorter term because this deal. He's 23 right now. He'll turn 24 in February. Would take him through his
30th birthday.
Yeah, through his 30th birthday. He'll be 31 when the deal is up because this doesn't take effect until next year. So he would be 31 at that point, looking at the next contract that he would get. Is it bad for him that he took a 7-year deal now? Maybe doesn't quite maximize that money as much, and then in the later years in his career, you know how teams get about paying defensemen on the other side of 30, which is someone turning 30 next April. I'm a little offended by this because I do not feel like I am remotely near the end of my career in any regard.
What would you do with $9.5 million?
Oh boy, life would be good. I tell you this, we would have no issue. We'd fly everybody in for our wedding. House would be paid for. Parents taken care of, all that jazz. That's what we'd be doing. Life would be good.
I feel like I would buy my mom a house.
Definitely.
I wouldn't even buy myself a house. I'd buy my mom a house.
I'd buy your mom a house. That woman
That's
is a
also
saint.
true. Yes, she is. She
She's
absolutely
wonderful.
is.
I hope she's watching tonight.
She'll probably be watching on the on demand side of things. But to your point, about is it risky? I mean, it's always risky when you're signing these. I mean, any young player really, defenseman, forward, what have you, goalie. But when you're signing these young guys to these massive contracts, there's always risk involved. But someone like Adam Fox, I feel like you said, he's only 23. This contract will be up by the time he's roughly 30, or roughly 31, I should say. But he's just being only 23 and continuing to show, like, normally you get those guys that they get those big contracts, and then the following year, you look at them and they're like, yeah, they're still good, but they're not playing up to the same par as the year before they got that
right, and not
that
living
sign
up
on the
to
dotted
the
line.
contract.
Exactly. They might be living closely to it, but in this case, I mean, I know we're only 10, 11 games into the season now, but he's not slowing down at all. If anything, he's starting to get better, which I agree with you. Maybe he'll miss out on some money towards the back end of his career, but at age 30, when it comes to defensemen, I mean, yeah, there's obviously going to be a lot of wear and tear on your body by then, but I mean, defensemen usually hit their prime age, in my opinion, around that 27 to 29 range. So, I mean, maybe he can get an extension by 30, smaller extension, nothing near 9.5 mil, but I think he can still rake in some dough by his 31st birthday once his contract is up. But he's already showing like he's going to be worth every penny, and he's just going to continue to get better and better and better.
Well, looking at just a couple of years down the road here and what the Rangers have coming up, they've already got Panarin, Kreider, Zibanejad, and Trouba, and now Adam Fox all locked up long term. Still going to need to figure out something to do with Gorgiev, backup goaltender, but has shown that he can play like a starter. Shesterkin's still clearly the starter, though. He's signed for another this year plus 3 more at 5 and change on million, 5.6, right around there. So
he's going to make some bank after that contract's up.
He will. Ryan Strome is really kind of the big, looking at what's coming up. But then there's also, you're going to have Lafreniere on a big deal. You're going to have Capo Caco on a big deal. Maybe a bridge deal at first, especially in Caco's case with the slower start to his career. Lafreniere kind of taken off this year. We're starting to see some signs that, hey, he's going to live up to being
true first overall
pick. that first overall pick. But does this put the Rangers in any sort of a bind with those types of deals, or is that part of why maybe you think that they signed this type of deal now, knowing that they're, depending what the salary cap does, frozen for the next couple of years, at least through the 2024 season?
Yep.
And we'll see after that. But
yeah, I mean, they're gonna. I wouldn't say that they're going to end up in cap hell due to all those variables you just mentioned with all those players coming up, but they're definitely going to have to make a couple sacrifices. I mean, trust me, I know the sacrifices that have to be made due to salary cap issues.
The Hawks having to lose some serious talent to cap casualties over the years.
We can have an episode about this in the off season, but it was always fun to joke around that literally the cap casualty team of the Blackhawks probably could have gone on to win a Stanley Cup if they were their own franchise.
At the very least, is a good playoff team.
But anyway,
even if not,
yeah, but exactly. I mean, they're going to have to deal with the ramifications there. Plus, I think, what is it? Panarin's making 11 mil, I think, right?
Yes, Panarin is 11.6.
Right.
And the AAV there.
And he just turned 30, I think, a couple weeks ago. So, which is weird to think about. He's already 30. He's not slowing down, but yeah, they're going to have to figure that out. And I forget how much time is left on Panarin's contract. I think there's still quite a few years.
This year plus 4 more on Panarin.
4 more? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
nice to have. Shout out Cap Friendly for being so incredible.
I know.
All of these numbers together. They make it so easy for all of us to be able to do things like this and look up live in real time what
hockey data nerds.
And, yeah, they're so cool. They were incredibly helpful to me while doing mock Seattle expansion draft prep, doing my annual mock draft prep. They're just an incredible resource. So shout out to Cap Friendly for all of their help. But Joel, I want to ask you another question now, and this is about, I didn't necessarily prepare you for this question, and that was intentional on my part because I want to get your answer to this in real time. We've seen some of these defensemen signed to big long-term contracts recently. Between Seth Jones on his extension, Zach Werenski, Charlie McAvoy, Cale Makar, now Adam Fox, and even retroactive to this year, Miro Heiskanen, defense of Montreal not Montreal. Buffalo went first. Rasmus Dahlin. He's going to be headed for a big contract coming up here. Which of those defensemen do you think is least likely to live up to that contract?
Oh, it's tough because, obviously everyone liked to call out, Seth Jones getting not necessarily particularly earning his contract that, that we signed him for. Recently, though, he is really starting to come into his own. He's been playing so solid, but
Mm-hmm.
And
Seth Jones 27. The rest of those defensemen all under age 24. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but
for sure, like he's basically going off the ramp into the prime of his career at 27 right now. Who would not live up to that contract? It's tough. I think that Charlie McAvoy contract was very smart on the Bruins' hand. That was one hell of a signing. That was great that they got that. Cale Makar is going to end up being just like I mentioned with Adam Fox. I mean, he's just going to continue to get better and better. And I think where you saw, the usual suspects fighting for the Norris Trophy throughout, the 2010s, I think now in the 2020s, you're going to start seeing that Norris battle of giants basically between Cale Makar, Adam Fox. I think we might start, I think we might see Quinn Hughes get up into that argument at some point.
I think he needs some better defensive metrics before
I agree.
It's there. But for the voters who look solely at points for their Norris Trophy ballot,
that's the problem.
He's going to be a strong candidate every year. He's an incredible offensive defenseman. But if you look at Vancouver, what's their big weakness right now is defensively. Part of that is going to ultimately fall on Hughes. So there's some of that. But taking Hughes out of the equation, of the ones I just named, do you have one that you think won't live up to that contract?
Won't live up to one of their. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't know if I see Seth Jones living up to $9.5 million. Hey, I hope I'm wrong about my team. I hope I'm wrong, but I mean, of everyone you just mentioned, I mean, maybe the only one I could see falling off could be maybe I don't even think Dougie Hamilton would fall off. Although one thing that could make Dougie Hamilton fall off is that he has no help, but also neither does Seth Jones. So
Hamilton is getting some help because with Ryan Graves in New Jersey, and then with Ty Smith, who highest finishing Calder vote last year among defensemen. I think he was either fourth or sixth. I can't remember exactly where he fell in that voting, but he was right there, and he was the top D man. And Devil's a young team on the rise. For me, I think it's either Heiskanen or maybe Zach Werenski. And the reason I say Werenski...
That is weird, because I was just about to say both of them.
The reason I say Werenski is Columbus is kind of stuck right now. They have some really good players in their system, Werenski being one of them.
Yep.
But they don't have necessarily a huge young pipeline of talent that's ready to come in. With a team like, say, the LA Kings, or kind of like what we're starting to see with the Rangers now too, where all of their young guns are kind of all coming into the system at the same time. But they also don't have a super strong veteran presence as well. Mm-hmm. Max Domi is good, but not great. He doesn't strike me as a player right now who is capable of leading his team on a cup run. Patrick Laine, very gifted goal scorer, having a nice bounce back year this year.
Yep.
But still, is he capable of leading that team? I don't know.
Does he get overshadowed by Adam Boquist once he comes back and starts to potentially get to his potential?
There's some of that. And you mentioned Boquist, and that kind of leads me into this question of who is the next defenseman to earn that big contract? Who and how much? We kind of pitched it together here, but you're right. It was a natural segue there. You definitely pitched that question, and it's a good question. I'll give you credit for it.
I want to hear your answer.
Point to segue it, though.
I agree. I want to hear your answer first on this, though. I am
Okay.
interested to hear who you think is gonna, and it doesn't necessarily have to be who's gonna hit that 9.5 mil, but who's the next young defenseman that's gonna at least sniff 9 mil.
I think one of them that's gonna maybe sniff that is Boquist. I think maybe he signs a 1 or 2 year bridge deal when his current deal is up. I'm going to look up the details on that here. But Boquist is just a promising young defenseman. He's very, very good. 21 years old. This is already his 3rd season in the league. Yeah, his contract is up after this season.
Yep.
He has been injured with a lower body injury, missed the last couple of games. Just been keeping an eye on that and writing a few Columbus betting previews lately. So that's where I've seen that come into play. But Boquist, I think, maybe signs like a 2 or 3 year bridge deal type scenario to get to that age 23, 24 mark where teams can really see, how good is this guy really? I think maybe that 2 or 3 year bridge deal would be ballpark 4, 4.5, 5, somewhere in there. I would be really surprised if he signed for anything less than 4. I would think right around 4.5 is probably what they're going to settle with. I could see the projection like when they first come out with the deal, and Boquist says, "I think I'm worth this," and the agent comes out and says that, and then the team says, "We think you're about here." I think that 4.5 is right about the middle where both sides will come to. But I could also see Boquist's camp starting at about 6 for those negotiations, and the team trying to say, no, we're thinking about 3. So we'll see kind of where that falls. I think he could be in line for a big deal, depending how Carolina's cap situation works. This is another one that really could go any number of ways here, and that is with Ethan Bear. Bear is
You're
24.
high on Bear. I know you are.
I'm really high on Ethan Bear. I like this kid a lot. He had a bad turnover in the playoffs last year that cost the Oilers big time. But you look at the rest of that team, and I mean, Bear was kind of the glue that held it all together. They were a different team when Ethan Bear wasn't in the lineup. He's already looking like a very, very good fit in Carolina. Almost your prototypical Carolina defenseman. They've become a factory for defensive prospects lately.
Right.
But Bear is a restricted free agent at the end of this year. At 24, he's not going to sign another bridge deal. So he is in, I would say, a better position than Boquist to sign that big deal sooner. But I don't know to what extent Carolina is going to be able to sign him. They offer sheeted for Kotkaniemi, who is a restricted free agent at the end of this year. They're probably going to want to sign him long-term, especially with the cap the draft pick compensation, the first and the third round pick that they're sending to Montreal for him. Other than that, looking at the rest of the team, Marty Nietzsche is going to be a free agent. Ian Cole, Tony DeAngelo, Brendan Smith, all free agents at the end of this year. There's not a whole lot of cap room there. Plus, they've still got Jake Gardner on long-term IR. I don't know if he's going to be back this season or not, but he might be. But it looks like they've already got close to $60 million of their cap covered for next year. And that's before you get into signing those guys on long-term deals. So I don't know where Ethan Bear necessarily fits into the equation. If you like a player enough, you'll find a way to keep him around. And whether that's through trade or a buyout somewhere, something like that, there's ways to make it work. And if Carolina wants him there and wants to lock Bear up long-term, I could definitely see him signing a big long-term deal. Otherwise, as a restricted free agent, another team could come along and offer sheet him, maybe Montreal. Can you imagine that if this offer sheet war just goes back and forth between Montreal and Carolina for years?
Build that rivalry as petty as it's going to be. I want the petty levels to reach over 9,000 at this point. It's so much fun to watch.
It's been so great. Their tweet from the official team Twitter account, like did the Canadians lose.com or something like that. And it was a link that said yes they did, and then scroll down, use code Montreal or something like that for 20% off on a Sebastian Aho t-shirt or jersey and a Kokoniemi t-shirt or jersey. So you get that type of pettiness that is just wonderful. I so badly want that to stay for a long time. So maybe it is Ethan Bear. Let's go ahead and put that as our bold prediction. We're going to write these down. We'll revisit them at the end of the podcast season and when we get into summer. But
we'll figure out who it is.
Ethan Bear, I'm writing it down. Ethan Bear offer sheeted by Montreal just to spite Carolina.
I like it.
I think he's the next one. All right, your turn to answer this question. Next defenseman to earn that big contract, and what sort of numbers do you think?
Yeah, you kind of covered pretty much everyone, at least right now. I think the only one for me that comes to mind is Mikhail Sergachev of the Lightning.
Yep, that's a good one.
He's going to need to be basically Hedman's kind of predecessor, because Hedman is, how old's Hedman now? He just hit 30, right? Or is he 29?
Protege, not predecessor.
Well,
Hedman would be the predecessor too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's going to have to fill those shoes when Hedman is out of there, whether he retires, whether he retires Tampa Bay, whether he moves on somewhere else after his contract is up. I think Sergachev is in the best position and has the most talent around him, because he can put up the points. I mean, over his last 4 seasons, he's averaging about 34 points. So I think he'll continue to raise the points, but that's the thing. I mean, I think he's turning into an all-around good defenseman. He's only 23 years old. He's got plenty of time, and he's working under arguably the current best defenseman in the league in Victor Hedman.
That's a topic we're going to argue this offseason. That's
the best defenseman in the league.
Yep, best defenseman in the league. Go through.
I agree.
We could do a whole show by each position and maybe do
we have some fun off-season shows.
We do. We've already got off-season planned, but we don't even have planned what we're going to do next week.
We're only 10 games into this season. Let's pump the brakes.
Episode 4, and we're already looking off-season. That's where we're at right now.
Episode 4, here's to 400 more. Anyway,
well, I understand that you, as a Hawks fan in particular, are looking to the offseason, and that kind of leads me into this next question here too. Should the Coyotes or the Blackhawks tank? You see how natural that segue was?
Shout out! We are undefeated in the month of November. It only took 9 games, but we got that. You got your
first win. Congratulations! 1 in the win column.
Yep.
Talk to me when you're in playoff position again. We'll see what happens.
I like this question though, because I have a lot of thoughts, and I think right away I can jump into this. Like, if we're gonna should either of them tank, and if so, which one more so? No, the Blackhawks should not tank, and I think the biggest and I think there's 2 different things I want to cover there. And one, I'll get, because I can get into the actual players, but the first thing I want to cover is actual draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
So Arizona has, what did you say? They have 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks, and 5 second-rounders coming up in 2022.
The first-rounders are from Colorado and Montreal, but that's a conditional one that Arizona will get the better of Montreal or Carolina's pick. Right. If either or both are top 10 picks, then Arizona gets the worst of those picks. Right now, Montreal looking like a bottom 10 team, Carolina looking like a top 5 team. So probably a late first-round pick there, probably a late first-round pick from Colorado too, depending if they can get healthy and rebound and be good to go for playoffs, which is what we're expecting.
Right. And then look, even that alone, we don't even have to get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds. Even just 3 first-round pick, conditional or not, 3 first-round picks and 5 second-round picks.
It's a lot of early draft capital.
Exactly. And I think in that sense, why wouldn't you tank with that draft capital? And also, and this will segue, but meanwhile, the Blackhawks do not have a first-round pick for, I believe, the next 2 years.
Yes, they do. They still have the conditional.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So no, and I'm with you. They don't. 95% we won't have a first round pick this year unless we well, we'll get into the lottery, obviously, but if we win the lottery and get first or second overall, then yes, we still have a first round pick. But that's not going to happen. If that happens, cool, great. This is a little bit of a this is a foreshadowing for the show, but Shane Wright, come on over, buddy. But anyway.
I, for that reason alone, want you to get the 2 pick. The fact that you just said Shane Wright to Colorado makes me sick. I feel
to
physically
Colorado,
ill.
to Chicago.
Or to Chicago, sorry. I was looking at Cap Friendly and with the
No, I got you.
Avs.
And so, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, would I love that? Yes, of course I would. But I think this is the segue into why the Hawks shouldn't tank, because the talent when you compare the actual talent on paper from both teams, it's night and day. Yes, the talent on the Blackhawks has not performed in these first 10 games. 1-7-2 is awful. But at the same point, it is only 10 games. They can pick it up, and I think they will. Arizona, on the other, when you have a team where I can rip off 3 all-stars right off the bat in Kane, in DeBrincat, in Taves, young guns like Kirby Doc, Brandon Hagel is turning into what I said he would at the beginning of our show. In episode 1, I told you to watch Brandon Hagel, and so far he is proving that he can play. I don't know if you watched the game last night. I get it. I get it. Ottawa is not a good team. They're 3-4, and
well, that's who the Wild is playing tonight, so I will get to see Ottawa.
You'll get to see them. They're not a good team.
Wild Murray, up 2-0 at the end of the first there.
Exactly. So were we. We were up 1-0 at the end of the first, and then 2-0 right at the beginning of the second. Anyway, Ottawa, not a good team. I get it. That's fine. But hey, they had 3 more wins than we did. But when I can rip off names like that, and obviously, and Seth Jones has been playing phenomenally. Maybe not from a point standpoint, but compared to that first game, his next 9 games, win or loss, he has killed it. His keeps at the blue line into the offensive zone helped set up Patrick Kane's first goal last night. He's been one hell of a power play quarterback, which despite all of his critics, that's one of the things I really thought he was going to truly become when he first got here, and that's exactly what he's done. But again, I listed off all those names. Now, that brings me to Arizona and actual talent on paper. I want to play a little game with you without looking it up and without taking too much time. Why don't you tell me who their top point scorer is?
I believe
top 3. Give me their top 3, but their top one first.
Well, I know number 1 because I just wrote a betting preview on this today too. 2 of them okay. Is Shane Gostisbehere. Is there?
All right, I thought I was going to fool you with this question.
It's so close. And if it weren't for if they hadn't assigned me 2 betting previews on Arizona today, I wouldn't have known that. I never would have come up with Gostisbehere as their leading scorer. So I would have gone through other guys. I would have gone through Jacob Chikrin. I would have gone through Clayton Keller. I would have gone through Phil Kessel.
You would have been very dead wrong about Jacob Chikrin. That he has 0 points through their first 10 games, and he is a -15. He's having a rough season.
he's having a rough go of it, and he led all defensemen in goals last season, I believe.
Know. Yeah, exactly.
Which is really impressive when you look at what Darnell Nurse did while playing with Connor McDavid and that Edmonton power play.
Right.
That he would lead all defensemen last year was pretty incredible.
So you got their top 1. Who are their next 2?
Okay.
2 and 3.
Oh boy.
1 you'll know, 1 you will not.
Is 1 Clayton Keller?
Correct.
Is the other one I should say is Clayton Keller?
He's number 2. And then there is you know what? I guess I should correct myself. It's a 3-way tie for second.
Okay.
With 4 points each of them.
Since you said it's one that I wouldn't guess, Nick Schmaltz, maybe?
No. No, he's actually dead last.
Oh, boy. I have to think about who's even on that team right now because they've traded so many people.
I have a hint for you for one of the names. I mean, it'll give it away, but praise be. Praise be
Phil Kessel.
Phil Kessel.
Phil Kessel, yeah. Praise be the Phil.
Praise be the Phil.
I had already said Phil, so I had already ruled him out in my mind as being in that list. And then the other, maybe Victor Soderstrom.
Lawson Krause.
Lawson Krause. That actually, I was thinking about him if he might have been in there, but should have guessed him sooner.
That's the 3-way tie for 2, and then 3 is Christian Fischer.
Yep, that makes sense. So
also, Andrew Ladd is still playing hockey.
Well, he is and he's not. He's showing up there, but I don't think he's actually. Has he actually played a game this season for Arizona? Because if so, that's solely to get them above the cap floor.
I mean,
he's
played 9 games. He's played 9 games. Yeah.
Okay.
9 games. He's got a goal and an assist. He's a -6. How many shots has he taken? Only 13 shots. Oh, I'm sorry, 9 shots. Man, he's just got 9s across the board.
Well, let's consider this too with Arizona is they're going to have so much salary cap room for next season. In fact, at the moment, again, cap friendly coming through clutch for us, 51 million plus in cap room this offseason. There are teams who that's what they look at to try and go into free agency so that they can sign their restricted free agents, their pending UFAs, and maybe try and grab someone once the market turns loose. Yep. They're going to have 51 million in cap room. And a lot of these guys are guys that probably aren't going to re-sign there. I mean, I love Phil Kessel. I think he's going to get traded at the trade deadline this year, probably fetch at least another first round pick. So Arizona could be coming into the next draft with 4 picks.
I think
first round picks.
I think he's coming up on retirement anyway. He's 34. I think he's probably only got a couple years left.
But he's going to have a couple years left. He's going to have a couple of good years. He'll be going from Arizona, where he's been the last couple of years, and Arizona's been nowhere near contention.
Yep.
Probably to a cup contending team. You think if Tampa Bay still has Kucherov on long-term IR, maybe they bring in Phil Kessel as their replacement winger there.
That's a good point.
I could see that.
One quick thing here.
Go for it.
It's just funny because I look at we're talking about up and down rosters here, and it's just so crazy to me to think of quote unquote winning this trade. But man, Nick Schmaltz just disappeared. That he had so much upside when he was coming up in the systems for the Blackhawks, and then when we traded him and got, I was excited about getting Dylan Strome. I knew it wasn't anything, oh my God, the world is amazing. We got Dylan Strome, but I just had this feeling. I was like, we won that trade, but I'm gonna be a little nervous for the first couple of years to see if we truly.
I don't know if I can outright say yet that
I think we won that trade based on just production alone from the player. We won that trade. I get it. We haven't made the playoffs other than the COVID exception year, but
Strome has been healthy scratch this season, though.
Listen, do not blame Dylan Strome for the incompetent head coach he has to deal with. All right.
I'm just saying. I mean, if he was good enough to play, a coach, even if you don't like Colleton, is going to know that Strome would be playing if he was worth playing.
I have a stat that I have to look it up. It was a stat about Dylan Strome. It was tweeted by, I believe, Charlie Romeliotis. He's an awesome Hawks beat writer for Chicago. In Chicago, his stuff is great. He's a great follow too on Twitter. And him and Pat Boyle do the Hawks Talk podcast. He's great. There's a stat that he posted. I got to find it, so I'll probably do it during one of your monologues at some point. I have to look for it. It's a very interesting stat.
Go for it, because I'll just vamp for a minute and I'll say that Dylan Strome. Numbers this year, not good. He's really been the 14th forward for the Blackhawks this season. And just isn't he doesn't jump off the page for me as someone who does anything particularly well. He doesn't play on the power play. He doesn't play on the penalty kill. 4 games this season, he has 1 assist. He's taken 8 shots and has 8 penalty minutes. So, to me, that's not a type of guy that I look at and say, that's a guy who we won the trade in going out and getting this guy. With him being so in and out of the lineup, he has played fewer than 14 minutes a night in 3 of his 4 games. He did play 15 minutes in the game against the Blues, did not have any points in that game and had just 2 shots. 24 shifts. I don't look at Strome and say that that's a guy who won a trade. I can both teams lose a trade? Maybe. Schmaltz still somewhat productive, at least for the Coyotes. I mean, he's making $5.8 million. They both have one assist this season, so I guess if you want to say that they won the trade, there is that. But just looking at what their production has been, and definitely Strome in a more favorable opportunity with the talent around him and who he's playing with. It's just an objectively better situation in Chicago than for Schmaltz, but Schmaltz has, I think, been the better of the two.
I mean, Dylan Strome's first year as a Blackhawk, he broke 50 points. I mean,
yeah, and he was playing alongside Patrick Kane and DeBrincat, was he not?
Not the whole season, but yeah.
Okay, but who has Schmaltz been playing beside?
Well,
because it hasn't been Kessel.
No, but what were his stats when he got traded to Arizona? Let me double check that really quick.
Let's see. After the trade, 14 points in 17 games. The following season, his first full season, 45 points in 70 games. That was an Arizona team. That one just missed the playoffs, right? Because that would have been lockout.
Then 32 points after that.
That would have been the COVID lockout.
Yep.
Coming out of that, but 45 points in 70 games. Now 3-1 Wild, by the way.
There you go. See, they score. Okay. I did find that stat, by the way.
Okay, good. So that's what we were buying time for. So
exactly. I appreciate it. I knew I could count on you. Obviously small sample size, but it's just interesting. And this, I think, was and by the way, I was wrong. It wasn't Charlie Remiliotis. It was Mark Lazarus. You know him.
Well, he is one hell of a great follow. The Athletic. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's great.
He's just a fun follow on Twitter too. So he's only played now, I think it's 2 games this year, 2 or 3. I think it's 2. And this proved to me again, it was only 1 game before entering last night's game. He entered last night's game leading us in goals for percentage, or XGF percentage. I forgot what that means.
Yep,
but
expected
goals for. Sorry, thank you. Expected goals for percentage at a whopping 66.22%. There are only 2 other players above 50. He also led the team in scoring chances per 60 at 40.06, and next on the team was Kane with 23.15. And he played his worst period with 3.95 expected goals for percentage because he was playing with 4th line grinders. His coach does not know how to use him.
Well, out of curiosity, I'm going to take a look at Natural Stat Trick here because I want to see if that's his team or his individual expected goals for, because I have questions on that. Let's see here.
It would be...
Yeah, individual expected goals for.
Mm-hmm.
He is 16th on the team at 0.35, with multiple defensemen ahead of him, which is not great.
It's fair. Either way.
The individual numbers, not quite there. Maybe the team numbers, that would be the expected goals for, not necessarily just the individual, but
either way, I'm not saying he's an all-star or anything. It was just a fun little thing. I feel like
But maybe he is being misutilized, and that's fair. I don't watch the Hawks as much as you do. And certainly not as much as Mark Lazarus does. So exactly, right. There is that.
But to wrap up this this talk about tanking, like, no, the Hawks should not tank. I mean, they're gonna end up in the lottery anyway. Which is really a fall from grace when we had so much expectations of potentially hitting that second wild card spot. Which, hey, maybe they make it back there, but right now it doesn't look like
lottery rules this year too, or I guess that it changed after last year too. But teams can no longer move up more than 10 spots. So if a team that was, I think the way that this shakes out is if the team, say the 14th team wins the pick, they move up to 10 spots to number 4.
But they can't get number 1.
They can't get the number 1 spot. I think is how that works. I looked into that before the show, and that was my understanding of it. So,
and that's the thing. And I think this is how I know this was a nice tangent. I liked this, but I think to wrap this up in a pretty bow, it makes way more sense for Arizona to just continue to not win. Keep the losing streak going. Set some NHL records, because they're probably going to end up getting first overall, along with whatever they do in their second first round pick, and then their conditional third first round pick that they have. The Blackhawks, it makes no sense. Well, for one, I don't think they should tank anyway, because they probably
right. There's no guarantee they get that pick if they finish bottom 2.
Exactly. And then the other thing is just the actual talent that is on the roster. Despite the horrible start, that talent will not let that happen based off just their gameplay alone. Whether the coach changes a quarter of the way through the season, midway through the season, or the coach stays and continues to not be good like he is, that talent alone is going to, like we saw last night, Patrick Kane and his hat trick willed them into a victory. Talent like that is going to get them wins, and talent like that is going to keep them in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, they might just be not necessarily good enough to make a deep playoff run, but certainly nowhere near bad enough to really be trying to bottom out.
Exactly.
They're either stuck in the middle.
They're going to be stuck in the middle, and they still have the talent to make a push for that one of those wild card spots. But right now, I don't know if that happens. But we're early. We'll see.
All righty, let's take a look at what we did last week. We made some predictions. This is our new bit, Wednesday night picks. We're tied. Each of us got one right. Each of us got one wrong. Joel, you correctly predicted that the Florida Panthers would beat the Boston Bruins. Mm-hmm. I was just about 3 days early on that prediction, because then Boston beat Florida on Saturday, ended Florida's run for a perfect season.
Your fun article on how long the Florida Panthers going to stay undefeated?
I wrote an article this week about how long can the Panthers stay undefeated, and it was about 12 hours, maybe 14, after that article was posted that they had lost. So thanks, Florida, making me look really great there, talking about how long you could stay undefeated. And then the one I got right was I picked Vegas over the Dallas Stars. That was not have. Really well. It was close on paper. The odds going into it were -115 for Vegas and -105 for Dallas. Betting odds wise, it was close. So yeah, we've got a couple more with a twist on one of the picks. So we're going to start with this one, since we were just talking about both Carolina and Chicago. Carolina Hurricanes -145 at Chicago Blackhawks +125. Notice these odds too are courtesy of DraftKings. That came out earlier this afternoon. Those odds are subject to change before puck drop, but those were the odds that we have going into the show. I should have clarified that last week as well, so we'll make sure that we get in touch with that as well. But as of 8:40 p.m. On Tuesday, Carolina Hurricanes -145, Chicago Blackhawks +125. Joel, who you got in that one? I know where your heart is at. Yeah, where's your head at on this pick?
Yeah, you know where my heart is at, and we're coming off a win, but not of a very good team. I mean, the easy option, Carolina. I mean, Carolina's going to win it. I would like to think this is both heart and mind. I would like to think it's not going to be as much of a rout as our first matchup with them a few days ago now. But I mean, the easy bet is Carolina. I mean, how can you bet against them, especially against us?
I'm going to take Carolina as well. I think
hopefully I'm wrong.
Carolina coming off the loss is going to have a chip on their shoulder. Chicago is still going to be a fun barn. That place is going to be rocking. Usually is, even when the Hawks are bad now. Their sellout streak ended, but still pretty well packed, and that's going to be a loud arena. I think especially coming off of the win and seeing Patrick Kane with a hat trick the other night. And Carolina really hasn't necessarily been blowing people out of the water in their last couple of games either. Coming off the
water. Well, I guess I would consider 6-3 a blowout. So
right, but then looking at their other games where they have the shootout loss against Boston. I've got to go back here because that was on November. Only a 2-1 win over the Arizona Coyotes. Mm-hmm. They beat up on some bad teams that they really should be beating. Beating Montreal 4-1, beating Toronto 4-1, beating Chicago 6-3. Those are the games that they're supposed to win by those big numbers. But Arizona, beating Arizona 2-1, that one stands out to me as one that they want back.
No, for sure. I agree. And I mean, that's why I say I don't think it's going to be a rout. I think it's going to be one of those maybe 4-3 Carolina, 5-4 Carolina. But I mean, just because, like you said, chip on the shoulder from the OT loss, they're no longer undefeated. They're undefeated in regulation, but and then the Hawks coming off a win, Patrick Kane exploding out of COVID protocol. So it'll be a fun one to watch as opposed to the first meeting a couple days ago. But yeah, no, I got to go Carolina on that one.
Keeping with one of the Central Division teams that we both are vaguely familiar with, the St. Louis Blues, -130 at the Los Angeles Kings, +110.
It's an interesting one. The Blues were actually, that was if we go back to I believe last episode. Yeah, if we go back to last episode, that was my pick to remain undefeated, and that ended pretty quickly. It's tough. LA's a scrappy team. They're not good. They're not good, but they're also not just going to get beat up on all the time either. With their up and coming guys, I mean, I want to hear yours first. I need to think about this.
Yeah, I got to think about it too. I think for me, part of it too depends on where the Blues' health is at. Ville Husso, Ryan O'Reilly, and Kyle Clifford are all in COVID-19 protocol. Saad is activated from protocol. It sounds like he's likely to play tomorrow.
Right.
Started skating yesterday, but unclear if he's going to be in the lineup or not. That could be trouble for St. Louis. We saw them lose against Colorado the other night while O'Reilly and Saad were out of the lineup. It does force some changes. I guess it also kind of depends too what version of Jordan Binnington shows up. Is it the one who is a brick wall, or is it the one who is throwing a puck to the other end of the ice at Darcy Kemper and then swinging his stick at Kadri? So,
that was great though. Come on.
He is the biggest crybaby in the NHL right now. It's not, and
he's
it's not
channeling his Ron Hextall.
It's not particularly close for me either. He's such a poopy pants. Like it's honestly funny.
You know why, right?
You're gonna say something about St. Louis, so
yeah,
we're gonna.
He's a Blue, of course he is.
Yeah, we're gonna transition out of that one. This is tough because I think the tipping point for me is that for the Kings, no Drew Doughty and no Sean Walker. Walker done for the year, torn ACL and MCL. Doughty out until mid to late December. He comes back, I think, like just before Christmas.
Yeah.
So out for a long time there. And like you said, this is a scrappy Kings team. They do have some guys who can step up, but they're also, I'm looking at their injury report now. Victor Arvidsson is in COVID-19 protocol as well. Gabe Vilardi, Andreas Athanasiou could be back. Practiced in a regular sweater Tuesday, so he might be back in the lineup. But too many question marks for me on LA. I think I go St. Louis in that one.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one too. So we got the same picks. So
okay. Yeah. Well, in this one, no matter what, we're gonna do something different. Just because I want to argue with you. It gets more fun that way. And this is our one that has a twist to it as well. Columbus Blue Jackets +1.5 goals at -130, or Colorado Avalanche -1.5 goals at home at +110.
And now that means that, just because I'm still getting into it, -1.5 means the Avalanche.
So whatever the Avalanche goal total is,
it's got to be
the favorite. If you take 1.5 off that total, is Colorado still ahead? Basically, will Colorado win by 2 or more?
Right, exactly. But that was what I was saying. The minus means they're going to win by 2 or more. Right.
Right. So -1.5 goals, they win by 2 or more. Columbus +1.5 would be Columbus wins or loses by 1 goal.
Right. Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah, this one has the closest odds of any of the three. or I guess the other one was minus 130 plus 110 as well. I had just changed that. That was a last minute odds update on that one. Because earlier it was minus 125 and I think plus 105 on that one. So,
Right.
but yeah, minus 130, Colorado Avalanche plus
Both
110
fun
on the
fun
puck
thing
line.
on this. Yeah, fun thing on this, both teams off to an unexpected first 10, first 9-10 games.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
got
Columbus 5-3-0.
sitting in that
They
first wild
did they play
card
last
spot.
night? Are they still?
Did they
But
play?
you vamp and I'll look it up.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just funny, like the Columbus in that first wild card spot, and then Colorado not even in a playoff spot right now, even though Stanley Cup favorite to start the season, right? So, did they play last night though? But anyway, what I would think, I'm probably gonna go with, I believe Colorado on a winning streak right now, right? Like they're starting to pick it back up,
Uh,
if I'm
well,
correct.
neither Colorado nor
They are. They won
Columbus
their
playing
last two.
tonight, and they didn't play last night either. So both teams are coming in fresh and healthy in that one. Columbus is on a one-game winning streak, if you
And
want to call it that,
Colorado's
and
won their last
Colorado
two.
winning two.
That probably tells me the juggernaut that is supposed to be the Colorado Avalanche are starting to pick it up. Man, it's kind of interesting too. Like, it's funny, we were talking about, like, which version of Jordan Binnington are we going to get? Which version of Elvis Merzlikins are we going to get from Columbus?
True, and is it going to be him or is it going to be Corpusalo? It
Right.
probably Merzlikins, just the way
I'd
that
say
the season
I
has
would say
started. But
you refer
Corpusalo is not a bad backup either.
you refer everyone else gets referred to as their last names. You refer to him as Elvis.
Yeah, that kind of is the
Come on.
bit. So uh,
No, that's a good question. I guess this, this is just going to be my theme this week. I'm going to go with the slightly smarter play, and I'm gonna take the Avalanche, and I'm gonna take them at the -1.5 too. They're gonna win by 2 or more.
all right, then I'm going to be different, and I'm going to go with Columbus. Another big game out of Elvis, I think, could certainly go a long way here. And he's been good so far this season. Let me
Yeah,
get his stats called up here. But
he
solid
has.
goaltender. They might be getting Boquist back from injury
You
for
got to
that
give
game.
him.
He's
You got to give him some time to get his wheels back under him, though.
right. He's been lower body injury. He's been day to
Yep.
day there, so that causes problems. But Merzlikins 1.98 goals against average, 939 save percentage. He's been very good, and they look like a different team under Brad Larson. So I mean that's another point as well. I'll take Columbus plus 1.5 at -130. The odds favor the better on that plus 110, but I think Columbus is able to hang with Colorado. I don't know that they get the win outright. I know the odds for that were like Columbus was, I think, plus 180 and just to win outright, and Avalanche to win outright was minus 230. So it was up there a ways, but I'll take Columbus plus 1.5. We get something different. So no matter what, going into next week, we are going to have a new picks leader one way or another, courtesy of the Blue Jackets and the Avalanche tomorrow night.
Avalanche, come on! I know what you're gonna do. Elvis may be a good goalie, but he's gonna be under siege.
We'll see about that. I think the other thing too with Colorado is like Darcy Kemper hasn't played particularly well this season, and I love our boy Darcy Kemper. He's a good goaltender and has been frankly underrated throughout the last couple of seasons. But I'm looking at Colorado's injury report now too. Cale Makar won't be playing. Andre Burakovsky day-to-day. Mikko Rantanen is considered doubtful for the game. I think there's a lot of juice here on Columbus. So I'm
I
gonna
didn't know
go
about that.
Columbus.
I didn't know about that. I didn't check on that one, but I'm still gonna take Colorado.
Okay, fair enough.
We had a theme in this episode, and we talked about just pure talent, willing, imposing their will, and I think it's going to be someone like Nathan McKinnon who just wills them to a victory.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to go to our I think I'm going to go ahead and call it our favorite segment, 2 minutes for roughing. This is the part of the show where we get 2 minutes to just vent about anything that is on our minds. It doesn't necessarily have to be hockey related. Joel kicked it off in our first show with a rant about Chicago-style pizza and the superiority there. I
Still holds true.
Eviscerated the Sabres over the Jack Eichel situation and their handling of it. We didn't do it last week, but bringing it back this week. 2 minutes for roughing. Joel, would you be so kind as to put 2 minutes on the clock for me? Give me a second here to take a sip of water and count me in.
Oof. I'm interested. I didn't even try to cheat this week and ask you what you were going to talk about. So I'm interested in this.
Yeah, you have no idea what I'm going to talk about. So this is totally, you're getting this fresh and you can react in real time, and I hope you do. So
all right, your time starts in 3, 2, 1. Get to the box.
All righty, 2 minutes for roughing. Let's go. There are some really dumb rules in hockey. Like, for example, you can't headbutt a puck into the goal. We've seen that. There are rules about the curvature on the stick that can just get a little weird because then you get into toe bends on your stick. There are so many odd, weird rules in hockey, but I'm going to talk about one in particular that really grinds my gears, if you will, and that is goaltenders playing the puck behind the goal line solely in the trapezoid. It is the dumbest thing in hockey. Why would a goaltender not be able to come out and play the puck wherever they want? I understand you're trying to speed up the game or increase offense by giving a team more power play opportunities. It's dumb. Let a goaltender come out and play the puck. The ones that we've seen recently aren't goaltender skates all the way to the corner because he completely forgets about the trapezoid rule. When you see that penalty called, it's usually because the goaltender is clearing a puck up the wall. He's slowing it down for his defenseman and mishandles it and plays it just barely over the line. It's close. It's a dumb rule. Let goaltenders skate wherever they want. Heck, if they want to skate over the center ice line and go into the offensive zone, let them do that. Why not? I mean, obviously it's better to have a forward or even a defenseman attacking on the rush for you, but we once saw that with Patrick Waugh. He dangled Gretzky in the neutral zone. It was one of the funniest highlights of all time. Let goalies play the puck more. Get rid of the freaking trapezoid. I hate it. It's a confusing rule for new fans to the game. It doesn't do anything to really increase offense. It's a dumb rule. It needs to go. Here at the end of the show, I'm calling for the abolishment of the trapezoid rule. And that is how we do 2 minutes for roughing. End the rant right on 2 minutes. I'm out of the box. 2 minutes for roughing served.
Picking up the breakaway out of the box.
Yes.
Scoring on the breakaway.
No, I'd shoot it wide, and then the goalie would come out and play it in the trapezoid and take a 2-minute penalty, and we'd be right back on the power play. That's what would happen.
That was an interesting one. I know you've voiced that opinion before. It's interesting. Now,
it's so dumb.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, I want to see more action in general, and you let the goalie play it wherever you want. Hell, we see it, and now this is a nice little thing. We're about to get NHL players back in the Olympics this coming this coming winter, right?
That's not a rule.
It's not a rule.
Hockey, I don't think it's a rule. I know at any juniors level, it's not. So why does the NHL need to have it? Just get rid of it. It's so dumb.
Yeah, I definitely want to look up the history behind what the thought process was for it. I agreed with you. I mean, just more scoring, more power plays equals more scoring. Right, we want more offense, right? And I mean, I agree. I mean, those high scoring affairs are obviously much more fun to watch. But I guess the only because we have a minute left before we usually cut off. The only alternate perspective I would offer you is where the argument goes that the most important position in sports, it's usually pretty much an argument between a quarterback in football or a goalie in hockey, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What do they do in the NFL to the quarterbacks? They make every rule possible in the sky to protect them. So I'm wondering if that's where it stemmed from. They're trying to start protect goaltenders. Where goaltenders went from not wearing a mask and just taking pucks to the face and eating their own teeth to now all this protection, right? I mean, maybe that's why.
But they can't even define what goaltender interference is. Like, you can have a play where there's not contact with a goaltender, and it can be considered goaltender interference, which is a whole nother rant for another time. That can be another 2-minute for roughing segment. The NHLs need to clarify what is and is not goaltender interference. It's so ambiguous right now. It's hard for fans, even longtime fans like you and I, to know what is and what is not goaltender interference. But the trapezoid, you can at least see when a goalie comes out to play the puck. And guess what? If the goalie comes out that far, they're subject to get hit. That's part of the rule. If you don't want to get hit, don't come out and play the puck. But don't limit them to the trapezoid. Let them play wherever they want.
What do you? Hey, your time is up. What do you keep complaining for?
We're not complaining. We're not still.
This was not a 4-minute double minor. You're not bleeding from the lip.
This is me countering your counterpoint because you threw a counterpoint out there. So that's what that was.
It was a counter perspective. I don't see any blood.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll call it a whistle right there. Extracurricular activities at this point. So we'll put a wrap on it. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in during the show. As a reminder, you can find us on demand anytime, listen to past episodes or replays of this episode on iTunes and on Spotify.
Toss us a review if it's available.
It is, yes. You can review. It's specifically under the Sports 2.0 Network umbrella, but you can definitely write a review there as well. We'd certainly appreciate that. You can follow the Sports 2.0 Network and noopsports.com on the websites, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube and Twitch as well. Our YouTube channel has exploded. I think we're closing in on 2,000 followers on our YouTube channel, which is awesome. That has really, really taken off. A ton of great content on there. It's not just us. There's tons of new content every day. So please be sure to subscribe and follow there. But that is it for episode number 4 of Pod Snipe Celly. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Joel, any parting thoughts you want to leave the people with?
When you're skating, try not to get your skates tied up with another player on the ice.
Yes. Don't get your skates tied to another player. Let goalies play the puck. That's where we'll leave it with. He's Joel. I'm Dan. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.